Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. Today is going to be a book wrap-up, and I did not film this video last month, so I'm really excited to be filming this month. Yeah, I did read quite a bit because I was in quarantine, and I'm pretty sure that if you have been home all the time, you did find more time to read too, if you do read. And if you did not read, I highly suggest reading because it is so calming, relaxing, and you just feel so good. And honestly, it's made quarantine much easier for me. Anyway, I am going to dive into the books that I read in April, and if you look at the books in my thumbnail, you will just see 2 books, and you might think I just read 2 books, but to be honest, I read 11 books in April, and honestly, even I cannot believe that. 11 books. Double digit. I cannot believe it. But I did. And most of the books that I read were on my Kindle because I did not have a hard copy of those books, so I just used my Kindle. Now, this was much easier on my wallet, but honestly, I really love hard copies, but at the same time, Kindle is amazing. That being said, let's get into these books. And also, a lot of these books are also graphic novels, which I honestly don't read as much, but I decided to read them in April just because I wanted something lighthearted. And yeah, that's another reason why I have read so many books, because I don't really try to focus on numbers as much. Let's get started. And if I'm looking down a lot, it's because I have my books on my phone on my Goodreads. So the very first book that I read was Big Mushy Happy Lump by Sarah Anderson. Now, this is a graphic novel. I'll probably put the thumbnails, not the thumbnails, like the covers for the books here so that you can see what book I'm talking about. So this is a graphic novel by Sarah, and this is a series called Sarah Scribbles, and this was such a lighthearted and funny book. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I read it in a single sitting, obviously in like an hour, and it was just all these instances in life that you know, I think it's more about girls, but I mean, even boys can read it, and yeah, it's just how lazy we adults also tend to be, and just realistic depiction of life. That's what I would call it. The second book that I read is Geekarella by Ashley Poston. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this. This is kind of a popular book, I feel, and it's a retelling of Cinderella, but sort of in a geeky way. So Cinderella's name is actually Elle, and then we have Darian, who is the boy, the prince, but here he's actually an actor, and the book is divided into chapters from each other's perspective, so it's alternate perspectives, and the book was so cute and adorable, and honestly I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, but I did give it 4 stars. I was not like totally in love with it, but I really loved it. Also, the previous book, the first book, I gave that 4 stars as well. Moving on, the third book that I read was Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I'm pretty sure you've heard of this book because this is so popular again, but this is about this girl who is like the perfect girl in school. Like, she's the head girl and she's great at studies and everything, but no one really knows that she's such a nerd. Like, she absolutely loves this one podcast which is called Radio Silence, and she is crazy about it, and she makes a fan fiction for it and everything. And later on, she finds out who actually makes this podcast, and she becomes friends with this person, and the story unravels around these characters, and you just find out so many things that are heartbreaking and at the same time beautiful. I really love the story and everything, and it was wonderful. I again rated it 4 stars because it was not like one of my favorite books, but I really loved it. So that's why 4 stars. The next book that I read is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. Now, this book, it was so good. The story begins I don't remember how many months ahead, but there's something that's happened in this girl's life called Marion. She is the protagonist of the story, and we find out how you know, how she has taken this decision to run away from her old life and why she has taken it. So you kind of see glimpses of the past as you're reading the story of the present. And there's this other girl called Mabel, who is Marion's friend, who comes to visit Marion. Oh my god, that's so confusing. She goes to visit Marion at this university because she has basically ran away from her life, and she's staying at this university all alone in the Christmas holidays because she does not want to go back to her old life. And you find out what exactly happened and why Marion is so heartbroken. And the story was so beautiful, and it was so sad. Like, every page I was reading, I was just feeling myself, you know, get more and more immersed in Marion's sadness. And that might sound very miserable, but honestly I enjoyed it. Like, I love sad books sometimes, and that was one of those books that I just wanted to immerse in and feel sad with and cry with because it was that beautiful. And it was more character driven. I feel there was not a lot of plot to it. Like, there were a few things happening, but it was more of just, it was just dealing with emotions, and that's what I loved about it. So yeah, I do plan to read more books by Nina LaCour just because I love this book so much, so I'm hoping to do that soon. The next book was a novella by Blue is the Darkness, Weakened by Light. This is by Sarah McCarry. Now, this book was literally like 30 pages or something, so it was honestly not as much, and it's about this girl who has come to this new town to write. I don't know what town it was. So all they have really mentioned is that this lonely young woman moves to this big city who is looking for love, and she finds this friend who is a vampire who is helping her write, or basically she's editing all these novels about cliche vampire stories, and her vampire friend is helping her edit them. And honestly, the story was good, but what really frustrated me was the use of punctuation marks in the story. Like, I could not figure out what lines were dialogues and what were actually statements, because there were no you know, no commas, no nothing, and I don't know what was going on. Like, there were no inverted commas, and that was just driving me crazy. So I feel like I just did not like the editing style as much, and the story in itself, it was fine. It honestly had the, I would say, capacity to be an amazing story, but it fell very short. So I rated this 2 stars. For me, 2 stars means I did not like the book, and 1 star is if I hated the book, and I did not hate it, but I did not like it. So I gave it 2 stars. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I rated We Are Okay 5 stars. Oh my god, this is all over the place, but yeah, I love that book so much, so I rated it 5 stars. It was just beautiful. Anyway, moving on. The next book that I read is The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. This was a thriller book, and honestly, it was quite interesting, but it was not as amazing. Like, it was not as thrilling. It definitely kept me on my toes at times. There were things that happened that were pretty crazy. I did not even tell you what the story is about. It's about this woman who is agoraphobic. Basically, she's in her house, and she's been in her house for 11 months and she cannot go out, which is sort of crazy to read in the lockdown when you honestly cannot go out even if you want to. That really made me mad at her. But you later find out why she's agoraphobic and all of that, and the book does you know, delve into her PTSD and all of that. And basically, I don't want to tell you anything that will spoil the story for you, but she sees something in her neighbor's house. Oh my god. She sees something at her neighbor's house, and she calls the police and everything. It's a big deal, but the police refuse to believe her because of her agoraphobia and also because she's an alcoholic. So that's how the story unfolds. So you're stuck with this unreliable narrator and you don't know what exactly is happening, and that is kind of, I would say, thrilling, but at the same time the story did fall short in thrilling me as much because I did kind of guess a lot of things that happened. So yeah, it was a fine story, it was a fine thriller, and I rated it 3.5 stars if I did not say that already. The next book that I read was Heartstopper Volume 1, and I'm pretty sure this book is something that everybody has talked about. It is a graphic novel about two boys, Nick and Charlie, and they become friends, and then I don't think this is a spoiler, they fall in love, and it's just a cute romance between them. It's not like absolutely amazing, blew my mind or anything, but it was really cute and a nice comfy read, and that is why I rated it 4 stars. It was like a book I loved, I would say, but not like loved it to be having it as my favorite book. It was really good for a graphic novel though, so that's that. The next book that I read was The Flat Chair by Beth O'Leary, and this is a book about this girl called Tiffy and this guy Leon, and they decide to flat share. Now what flat share means is basically they're sharing the same flat, but Leon is going to be there in the flat at night, because in the morning, that is during the day, because he has a night shift and he works as a nurse, so he's not there at the flat during the night, and Tiffy is there in the flat at night. She's not there during the day because she works a 9 to 5. Now Leon also goes away on the weekends, so they never meet. So like almost half the book, Leon and Tiffy have not met at all, but they leave each other post-it notes or text each other and stuff like that, which is sort of really cute. And this book is sort of a romance story. Yeah, it is a romance story, but it does deal with other important things as well. So in this book, Leon's brother is imprisoned when he hasn't really committed the crime, and he's been accused of this crime, and it also deals with that, which was kind of a fun element of the story. Like, I really liked that. So yeah, it was a really good story, I would say, and again, it was a 4-star read. I apparently had a lot of 4 stars in April, but I enjoyed it. The next book that I read is Final Girls by Riley Sager, and holy lord, like, I feel like I would have already predicted it was going to be a 5-star. It was a thriller about these 3 girls who have been part of this mass murder, and these 3 girls are the only survivors of these 3 mass murders. So what happens is one of those girls dies. Her name is Lisa, and then we have Quincy, and I think her name was Sam. These 2 girls are the other girls, and Sam appears on Quincy's doorstep after Lisa dies, and Quincy is wondering why exactly she has shown up. And after that, a lot of crazy things start happening, and honestly it's a crazy book. That's all I can say. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was so thrilling, and it was just so page-turning. I devoured the book in 2 days, and I highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. It was amazing. And I also really loved The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, so I knew I was going to love this. Yeah, loved it. The next book that I read is Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas. Oh my god, I delayed finishing this book for so long, but I am so glad that I did, because it was wonderful. I was crying throughout the end of the book. It was heartbreaking. I must say that you need to be prepared to finish this book, because it breaks your heart, and I honestly cannot wait to pick up Kingdom of Ash, but I'm trying to get through Tower of Dawn before I finish Kingdom of Ash, because I've heard that Tower of Dawn does have quite a few important facts, and it's about Kaol, obviously Kaol going to the God City to get himself healed, and it's not the continuation of Empire of Storms, and I cannot wait to pick up Kingdom of Ash so that I find out what happens. But I'm honestly enjoying Tower of Dawn. I'm reading it right now. It's amazing. Empire of Storms, if you don't know, it's about Selena Sardothian and her quest to basically fight for her kingdom and get her kingdom back. That's all I can say. If you want to know more, you need to obviously read the first 4 books in the series. I would say 5, because there's even the Assassin's Blade. But yeah, it's a wonderful book, and I've been loving it. The last and final book that I read was The Art of Taking It Easy by Dr. Brian King, and this is another book I have been reading for 2 months now. This is a non-fiction book on basically dealing with stress, dealing with life stressors. He puts it as how to cope with bears, traffic, and the rest of life stressors. Fun. Now this was a really good book, and I feel like it's so practical, but at the same time he's talking about things in normal life, and with the coronavirus and everything, life does not feel normal, so dealing with stress has just become so much more different, which is why this book wasn't as much applicable later on, but I did enjoy the start of the book when things were normal. Yeah, I rated it 4 stars again because yeah, I loved it. Oh, and I did not mention I rated Empire of Storms 5 stars because obviously I was going to rate it 5 stars. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, I think that's it. I read 11 books, so it was really difficult to talk about all of them. I've never done this, but I hope you enjoyed my summary of all of them, and I hope you've been reading a lot too. I hope you pick some of these books and read them yourself if you liked what you heard, and tell me what you've been reading, what you read in April, or what you plan to read in May. Yeah, May looks like it's a lot more of quarantine time, so I'm hoping to read a lot more. Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna make this video any long, so I'm gonna say bye here, and I hope you're taking care and staying safe. I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye!